Hi, I'm Jim Knotts, President and CEO of the Vietnam Veterans Memorial Fund. Welcome to today's virtual reading of the names. 2022 marks the 40th anniversary of the dedication of the Vietnam Veterans Memorial in Washington, D.C. As part of our commemoration, we'll host an in-person reading of the names at the wall from November 7th through 10th, 2022, when all 58,281 names on the wall will be read aloud. In the lead up to that event, we'll be reading names each day online while sharing the photos of these heroes. For our daily virtual reading, the names of the service members will be read by month and day of death between the years 1956 and 1975 in alphabetical order for the given day. We apologize in advance for any mispronunciations. Know that our readers are doing their best to honor these service members. We hope you'll listen and watch each day and share with others as we remember and honor those who gave their lives during the Vietnam War.
Dwight Lee Adams, William George Andrus, James Joseph Endeliz, Alan Atrian, Larry James Baker, Raymond Delmar Baker, James Marvin Ball, Joe Magliano Ballin Jr., William Bell, Jerry Claude Bennett, John Arthur Bennett, Cobby James Bentley, Bernard L. Blitch, James Robert Bodish, George Walter Boulware, James Irvin Boyer, Everett Lee Brackett, Rodney Bradford, Wilbur Ralph Branning Jr., Andrew Thomas Brown, Joseph Raymond Brown, James Brown Jr., Lawrence George Bryan, Thomas Edward Buckley, Paul Bustamante, Alton Doyle Bird, Alan Kane, John Edward Carlson, Freeman Abraham Carr, William Edwin Carter, David Dwayne Case, Benjamin Alvin Chitko, William Edward Clancy, Troy Orion Coker, James Martin Colito Jr., Edward Cunningham, Robert Paul DiEmanuel, Gary Robert Daffin, Robert F. Daly, Alan Dance, Billy Ray Dent, Michael Hubert Deschaines, Perry DiBernardino, John Martin Donahue, James Claude Durham Jr., James Raymond Englert, Gerald Wallace Evanhus, Arthur Craig Faircloth, Kenneth Roy Farndon, James Milton Floyd, William Johnson Franklin, Robert Lee Gabel, Douglas Gaines Jr., Howard Garrett, Charlie Goss, Donald Eugene Gleim, John Fletcher Goodlett, LaFelt Greer, James Roger Griffin, Michael Edward Hayter, Jack Harris Jr., Thomas Howard Hawking, Russell James Heath, William James Henry,
Brady William Herring, Frederick Hirschman III, Jerry Vern Horn, DeLon Hunter, Kenneth Ray Ireland, Sam Ivy, Carol Thomas Jackson, William George Giroux, John Joseph Kalin, Joseph Frank Keeney, Freddie Ray Kelly, Benjamin Albert Kennison, Ernest Nick Kroll, Ralph Warren Kuczynski, Harry Frank Lalonde Jr., Donald Edward LaRoe Jr., John Winslow Lawrence Jr., Darrell Dean Smith Lawson, Joseph Marion Light, Walter Bedford Lowe Jr., Lowell Eugene Lunsman, Donnie Ray Lusk, John Michael Lyons, Richard Jody Martin, Jerry Wendell McCullough, George Francis McDavid, D. Lance McDonald, Johnny Ray McKenzie, Donald Howard Meek, James Richard Myrtle Jr., James Ray Miller, Charlie Howard Mitchell, Robert Wilcox Moody, William James Moore, Larry Graydon Mothart, Lynn Martin Morgan, Clyde Edward Morgan, Dale Arthur Morrow, David Lee O'Connor, Jerry Lewis Ogren, Walter Stanley Olinsky Jr., John Onofre Oquendo Jr., William Joseph Oskilinek, M.C. Page, A.L. Parks, Norman Wayne Partridge, Kenneth Wayne Pease, Donald Lee Percy, Thomas Richard Poundstone, Tony Gordon Powell, Larry Pipniowski, Jose Manuel Quesney, Douglas Frank Quinn, Wilbur Dean Rainwater, Florencio Ramirez Jr., Edward Gary Rankin, Harlan Carl Rilk, Harry Eugene Rivers, William John Roberts, John Leighton Robertson, Joseph Edward Roble, William James Rohan, John Rossetto, Jose Manuel Ruiz,
Alfred George Sapp, Sr., Harry Robert Shetler, Robert Eugene Schmitz, Alfred Vincent Schofield, James Lenver Selden, John Senechek, Anthony Robert Signa, James Richard Smith, Ronald George St. John, Edgar Douglas Stanton, Jr., Melvin L. Stevenson, Joshua B. Stewart, Samuel Reed Summerfield, Randall Allen Thompson, Charles Michael Thompson, Donald Joseph Trampsky, Marthel Traylor, Jr., William M. Van Antwerp, Jr., Eliseo Vergara, Theodore Wood Webb, James Allen Wells, Elbert Arthur Welsh, William Henry White, James Monroe Willard, Johnny B. Williams, Robson Ward Wills, Willard Eugene Wilson, Arnold Bruce Wimberly, James David Wise, Lawrence Jeffrey Wood, Lanny Allen York, William Russell Young, Jr.